Wanted to welcome you to the inaugural first episode of Brightside Babe. In this first episode, I am entitling it Welcome to the Dark Side. I'm sharing the story behind the podcast, my journey through breast cancer, and how I learned that finding the bright side doesn't mean pretending life is perfect. Honestly, it's about surviving the hard stuff, laughing when you can, crying when you need to, or maybe screaming, and figuring out what comes next. So expect honesty, humor, a little chaos, some swearing, and don't be fooled by the bright side because we are definitely going to get into the dark side. So, welcome everybody. So, I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Adrienne. I survived cancer, lost my mind a few times, actually lost my mind a lot, and actually kind of still am. I've definitely overshared with strangers, and somehow I decided the appropriate next step was starting a podcast. So here we are. So I wanted to kind of start with what the bright side babe means. And I do feel like there's a difference between positivity and finding the bright side. So the bright side doesn't mean the bad thing didn't happen. It means the bad thing doesn't have to get the last word. And so I want to be clear that this podcast will be about so many things. And it will be about surviving the impossible and figuring out how to live afterward. And so this theme for me really started when I was diagnosed with cancer, but this podcast is about so much more. And so we'll talk about sex, we'll talk about love, we'll talk about motherhood, we'll talk about all the things. And sometimes it will be just me sharing, but really my goal is to bring others onto the podcast that have really gone through something unimaginable and have found their way out of the dark and into the bright. So just some backstory on kind of what got me here. So this first episode, we are going to kind of enter that cancer chapter. So who I was before cancer, because I feel like whenever we have sort of a pivotal moment in our life, there's that before and after. And I think before cancer, I was somebody that was, I think, maybe a little naive. I think I was fearful. I think that I didn't understand my own strength. And I think that life had meaning, but I don't think I truly understood or appreciated the life that I had. And, I think trauma will do that. Certainly before cancer, I had experienced things that were really difficult and challenging. I experienced a late-term miscarriage at 20 weeks. And so I think my headspace before cancer was already not great. But I think that I was a little more lighthearted. Like I said, I think I was a little more naive. And ultimately, I think that, I didn't totally understand or get what like real trauma was. And I think in general, like I was a little unprepared emotionally. Like I kind of thought I had figured it out, whatever that means when you're in your 30s. I don't think anyone has figured it out. And what I'm learning is that life is like an ongoing set of challenges. And once you figure out one, another one pops up. So I think for me, I thought my future would, like, I overcame the miscarriage. I got pregnant. I had my son in 2021. I went through IVF to get him. So I think for like my husband and I, that journey was crazy. And I'll talk about that um, on another episode. But I think that, you know, after having my son, I was like, okay, like whatever higher power there is, because I'm not like, I feel like I'm a spiritual person, but not somebody that like has a set God or belief, but I am very spiritual. I do believe in like a higher power. And I think that, you know, there is sort of this ongoing kind of fate that is being controlled by whatever higher power is out there. And so, anyway, I think after having my miscarriage and then having my son, I felt like, okay, like my life is about to start. Like, I got married in 2017, had my son in 2021, and I was like, we bought our first house. So there was a lot of positive, and I feel like I was getting really good momentum. And then April of 2023 rolled around when I got sort of the most unexpected news, which was being diagnosed with breast cancer. Um, so, you know, the cancer chapter, I ironically, when I was diagnosed. So I had been working in oncology for about 10 to 12 years in a non clinical capacity. So, you know, I think I was more administrative. I had sort of worked my way up. I started by scheduling and then was actually the director of the cancer center when I was diagnosed. Um, and the funny part is, like, when you do have like a major trauma, I remember with such clarity, like that the moments before and the moments after. So, like, the moments before, I'm not like, I was fucking at the Bruins game, like, got drunk with my friends, had the best fucking weekend, came back, and I'm laying in bed that night, and I had this overwhelming sense that like something was wrong. And I was like, am I just like hungover? And like, sometimes when you're hungover, you get that anxiety. But I was like, no, um, there is really something going on here. So, I was having this pain in my right breast, and I had been doing self breast exams. I was somebody that got my physicals regularly, especially after my miscarriage. I felt like I was almost like hyper in tuned and hypersensitive to everything that was going on in my body. Um, so anyway, I started feeling my right breast, and I felt something really hard, something that felt really large. And so because I was the director of the cancer center, right, I had kind of access to things that most people wouldn't. And so I texted the medical director who had become a personal friend, and she actually specialized in breast cancer. And I just said, listen, I'm feeling a lump. It's super painful. And I feel like, can you take a look at it tomorrow? And she was like, yeah, definitely. But I want you to be reassured that, with cancer, you don't often experience pain. And so, anyway, the next day I went in and saw her. She felt it. She was definitely like playing it like cool. And she basically just said, hey, listen, like, this very much could be a fibroid. Like, fibroids can be super painful, but I could tell like she was pretty fucking worried. And I knew her. I had seen her with patients. I had seen her interact with patients. And I didn't really want to ask a lot of questions. I was just like, okay, so next steps. Like, I'm very much like, I love a plan. I'm structured, and I want to know what we do next. And I was super, super fortunate. She was able to get me in for a diagnostic mammogram later that day, which was like the writing was on the wall. Like they don't schedule you for a same day mammogram if they're just like, oh, we think this is a fibroid. So she was obviously worried. But like me being me, like I was kind of in my like blissful bubble of like things have been going great. Like, okay, so I think I like went to Old Navy before the appointment. Um, Tried on a pair of jeans, which, I don't know why I was shopping at Old Navy. They actually have the worst jeans. But anyway, um, so I think my first mistake, I went to my mammogram appointment by myself because, again, I think when you are dealing with a really scary situation, like for me, I kind of disassociated and hyper focused on the fibroid. I was like, it's got to be a fibroid because, like, I don't have any family history. I've done self breast exams. I went to all my physicals. And so the mammogram itself, for any ladies out there, like a mammogram just normally is so fucking painful, like, especially for those with, uh, you know, smaller breasts. I was a double D at the time, but I was also having this crazy pain in my right breast. So basically this machine like comes down on your boob and puts an insane amount of pressure. Um, and I could tell, in text, like I always find it funny, like people will be like, well, the text said like everything's all good. Um, which I mean, ultrasound techs, mammogram techs, radiology techs, like they, I give them so much credit because like you've got to have the best fucking poker face. And my mammogram tech, I can't say enough kind things about her. She was wonderful. She had a great bedside manner, but like I could read her and I could definitely tell like something was wrong. They took a lot of pictures. And then I was basically brought out to this waiting area. I'm in a gown. And that's when I like started to really panic. I was like, okay, like holding on to that like idea of a fibroid as tight as I fucking could, knowing like this is not a fucking fibroid. Then I was brought back in for additional pictures, which I knew was bad. Uh, when you're non-clinical and you've worked in a field like oncology for long enough, like you know enough to be dangerous, right? Like, and and then we have the internet. So like you start Googling between that, like I had sort of already self-diagnosed myself. So anyway, I was trying to like mentally get myself back on track. So I was brought back in, and they took additional pictures. I was sent back out to the waiting room, and within a couple of minutes, the ultrasound tech, so a different tech, and the mammogram tech came out, and they're like, we need to bring you into ultrasound. Like the radiologist is reviewing your images and they have some concerns and they just want to take a look at it under ultrasound. And I was like, shit. So at that point, I had been like, I was on multiple text chains. I had my coworkers that I was chatting with. I was texting my mom and my sister, and I was, of course, texting my husband. And I was like, okay, so now they're bringing me back to ultrasound. On top of this, my mom was an oncology nurse for 35 years and had like recently retired. So she was also fucking panicking. So anyway, I went into the ultrasound room and I knew the radiologist already, because I had worked with her just through, I had started a multidisciplinary breast clinic. And so I knew her from a work capacity. And I would say like she had a very specific type of bedside manner, which was direct, and I'm not going to beat around the fucking bush, which I appreciate. So she came in and she basically said, okay, like I do not like what I'm seeing. And you have a massive tumor, what appears to be a malignancy, on your right breast that is covering your entire breast. And she's like, we need to get an MRI, but most importantly, like we need to get this biopsied. and she was funny. She was like, sometimes people like have an idea about where they want to get a biopsy. Like I could just do it right now, or like you can kind of look around. I was like, just do it. Like I'm here. And they were so wonderful. They did the biopsy, they did all the things, and I blacked out. Like I remember pieces of it, but I legitimately went into, like, I had my first well, no, I did have a panic attack after my son was born and I was going through some postpartum, but full blown panic attack. I was by myself. The poor staff was just like trying to console me, and that's the first time that it hit me, like, I am 37 years old. I'm being like, I mean, they can't tell you 100%, but they were 99% sure this was cancer. I'm being diagnosed with breast cancer. It's a very large tumor. And so my mind started to go into overdrive. Like, it's a large tumor. It's either been growing very slowly, but like, I knew enough about women diagnosed young, like, oftentimes their prognosis isn't as good. So I was fairly certain I had metastatic disease. So I had to have my husband come pick me up. I couldn't drive. Some of my coworkers actually came to the breast center just to like be with me until my husband arrived. And like, I just can't even like put into words how meaningful that was. Like, I didn't even realize they were there, but they were just there. And they, I don't think they knew what to say. I mean, my friend Jolynn, who is absolutely hilarious, just was like, everything's going to be fine. But I knew, I'm like, everything's not going to be fine. Like, I knew in that moment that was going to be a pivotal turning point. And so, like I said, I acknowledge and recognize the fact that because I worked in oncology, and oncology is like a small world, like even like nationally, oncology, like everybody knows everybody knows the players. And I'm fortunate, like I live in the middle of nowhere, Maine, but have access to Boston. And I have access to, you know, all of these great resources. But I also was fortunate enough to work with a medical director who specialized in breast cancer and was really well known in the cancer community and was a badass. So, like I said, they took the biopsy. I think they took the biopsy on a Thursday. I was able to get in for a breast MRI on that Friday, which showed that, kind of what we were expecting. It definitely showed a large malignancy. It was an inch from my chest wall. And then they noted that there were some suspicious areas on my left breast. So the next day I had to go back in, get a biopsy of my left breast. That path got sent out. And then I would say, like, honestly, the worst part of my cancer journey, there were a couple of moments, but the waiting. So like all of this stuff got sent out, pathology, the MRI results came back super quick, but really what I wanted to know was like a confirmation that this was cancer, what kind of cancer it was, because that matters. And then B, like, did I have metastatic disease? So that weekend of waiting was probably like, it felt like time had stopped. Like, my sister, who, like, she's a wonderful person, a wonderful sister, but like, she does not deal well with like highly emotionally charged situations. And she's like, that's okay. Like, let's just stay busy. Like, let's, just do normal stuff, which, yeah, that makes sense. But like, I just wanted to like be by myself and with my kid and with my husband. And I wanted to be left alone to like Google basically every bad thing that could happen, like listen to the Cranberries, listen to Wonderwall by Oasis, and just like fall into a hole. And that's like kind of what I did. Like, right, wrong, or otherwise, I was like, I want to be alone with me and my best friend fucking Google, and we are going to do this. And so that is essentially what I did. At that point, like my mom, and so my mom was in Florida at the time when I was diagnosed. She had driven down, and like my mom is like a badass bitch. She was like, I am fucking coming home. I will be at every fucking appointment. And like, basically, like she was going to do the cancer with me. And she made it back from fucking Florida in like record time. Like, I think they made it home. Like, so I live in Maine. My mom lives in New Hampshire. I think they made it home in like 2 days. Like, I don't know if they did like a bunch of cocaine and just like drove through the night, but her and her partner were back in like record fucking time. So, I mean, kudos to my mom. So that Monday, I was scheduled for a CT cap, which means CT chest, abdomen, pelvis, as well as a bone scan. And like my oncologist was just also like super on top of it. So she's like, fuck it, let's just get an EKG because that's going to be required to start chemo. And I was like, well, we don't like know. She's like, yes, this is cancer. Like we've checked that off. Now we just need to know like what type of cancer and we need pathology confirmation. So they had fast tracked my pathology and everybody was saying like this has got to be triple negative because that's typically what young women diagnosed with breast cancer, that's the most common. But interestingly, my pathology came back as ductal carcinoma, which means it started in the ducts, and it was ER/PR positive, so estrogen and progesterone positive, and that was surprising, which was kind of good news. The problem with my cancer is we knew that it wasn't going to be super receptive to chemo, and so the pathology came back, and then I would say probably the worst moments of my life were that CT scan and that bone scan, both ordered stat. I also, like, because I was an employee, I could access Epic, and like we are able to access our own record. So I had the CT scan, and like I don't remember that. I had the bone scan, which I remember because you literally look up at this little TV and you can see yourself head to toe and like the scan just slowly moving up your body. Um, and so, yeah, it was, I remember going back to my office because I went into work because I'm a crazy person, but also just like I needed normalcy and I needed something to occupy my mind. Like Google and I at that point had to like, if it was a Facebook status, like our relationship was complicated because we had spent all weekend like going through it together. And I wasn't sure that I was really happy with what Google was showing me. So yeah, our relationship at that point was complicated. Thank fucking God we didn't have Chat GPT at that time because I probably would have like gone to Vegas and married Chat GPT that weekend. Anyway, pathology came back and I was sitting at my desk refreshing like CT, like, and at that time, like, so the way it works, like when you get a CT of the chest, abdomen, pelvis, results will come back from the chest. So there's a different radiologist reading the chest, a different radiologist reading the abdomen, and then one for the pelvis. Or maybe like abdomen and pelvis were together, chest was separate. Anyway, so the chest came back and I remember like reading it quickly and it said like metastatic like disease and I was like, "Oh my God, like I'm going to die." And then I read it closely and I was like, "Oh my God, okay, yes." Like we knew this because we knew that it had metastasized locally, which means that I had lymph node involvement. And they could see a couple light up, so they knew I had at least 2 to 3 lymph nodes involved, which not great. And then my abdomen pelvis came back and there was no evidence of metastatic disease. And I got to tell you guys, like, I have never felt elation outside of like my son being born. Like, I've never felt such relief and happiness and then like a quick it was like, you know, that quick like dopamine like spike, and then I was like, well, I still have fucking cancer. So but I was, I just felt really blessed in that moment. And then my bone scan came back and there was no evidence of metastases to the bone. So I think like in cancer, I can't emphasize this enough. Like you have to enjoy the small wins because like if you're looking for like it's a long journey. So that is my best advice. Like you got to take the small wins because otherwise like it's really hard to get through because there's no like award, there's no medal, there's no like you just have to fucking get through it and it was my Mount Everest. Like I didn't have a Sherpa, but I didn't have oxygen. Like it was my Everest. So you have to celebrate the wins. And so I remember like going home and my mom was there watching Jack, my son, and like just crying and being like, fuck, like we have a win. Yes, I have stage 3 disease, but like there's a chance and I'm going to fight this. And that was like, I remember like after that weekend, I was like, you know what? Fuck you, fibroids. Fuck you, Google. Like, I am going to attack this with everything I have because I have everything to live for. And that was like my turning point. Like, I really started to think about life differently. I really started to appreciate the people in my life. And it was a turning point. That's like the best way I can put it. And so now, like, I'm on the other side of the journey. I ended up getting a port in. So interestingly, the cold caps, like they have been out for a while. So for anyone that doesn't know, like cold caps were invented by, the name is escaping me, but really the intent is to help people going through cancer, to maintain their hair because I will say like, I mean, losing your hair is traumatic. I think for some people like that is super important. But again, like I said, I had spent the weekend with Google in a very complicated relationship and cold caps were one of the things that I researched. And I don't want to discourage anybody from doing anything. It's a personal journey. It's a personal choice. Like you get to decide your journey alongside obviously your doctor and all the people. But when I started Googling cold caps, like I noticed that yes, people did experience less hair loss, but like you couldn't shower. Like there were a lot of things that you couldn't do in order to preserve that. And the hair itself, like cancer is designed to kill everything. Like, and that includes healthy cells. So like the hair became kind of brittle and like I'm kind of an all or nothing type of person. So I was like, if I'm going to fucking lose my hair, like let's just go for it. Like I had also read like a lot about the cold caps. Like when they say cold, like they're talking fucking freezing. Like, and I'd read from people that had done it, like the headaches and the, like, if you think about brain freeze, like when you drink like a slushy or something really cold really quickly, like that times 17. So I quickly decided I wasn't going to do that. I decided my hair at that time was like past my shoulders. I cut my hair into a pixie, which I had had before because I was like, if it's going to fall out, I don't want like these long strands falling out. I guess in my mind, I thought it would be less traumatic, which in some ways it was. But honestly, for me, the hair wasn't like, it was awful, but I wasn't like attached to it. Like I didn't feel, there was something freeing about it and something powerful. And like, being bald, like that's how we're born. There was something cyclical about it. So anyway, that was like a choice I made early on. So I received Taxol and adriamycin, which they call the red dragon for short. That's what I started with. And I started losing my hair, and that varies. Like after my second treatment, I woke up and had hair like all over my pillow. And I was like, we're just going to shave it. So I had my husband buzz my head, and my mom came over, and we all just like sat in the bathroom and cried and buzzed my hair. And I just like wanted it to be done. I didn't want to be in public and do that, but um I wanted like those closest to me there, and like it was a moment, another turning point. Um and appearance wise, like that did make it more real. And I will say, like, I was very fortunate. I had insurance that covered me getting a wig. I think I wore my wig once. I happened to be getting treated like at the beginning of summer, so June, so it was hot out, and I just was more into like I'm going to wear scarves and hats, and I tried to make it fun, like accessories. Um and so that was what I kind of decided to do. Chemo, it's no fucking joke. It is hard. It makes you feel like you are, like, I thought at times like I was, yeah, you want to give up. I'll say that. Like, you want to give up. I got neuropathy. I also like have a hypersensitivity to drugs. Like, my body is like very sensitive. That's the best word I can put it. And so I like like every side effect. They'll be like, but this only happens to like 1%. I am the fucking 1%. If there is going to be a side effect, I will get it, and I will get it hard. And that's kind of what happened. I received 2 doses of the Taxol, and after my first dose, broke out in full body hives. We did the second dose, and I basically had close to an anaphylactic reaction. I had to get an EpiPen, and I was like determined, because like I reacted pretty quickly. Like, and that can happen with Taxol. Like, you can have really no reaction to the first one. And then the second one, like I said, I reacted, had shortness of breath. I think my O2 stats fell to like in the 80s. I was breaking out in hives. So they gave me the EpiPen. They pushed a lot of Benadryl. And I was like, we are going to keep trucking. And the nurses were like, okay, well, we can't make that decision. So I saw one of the MPs. And again, remember, I worked there, so I knew these people intimately. And I was like, get my oncologist on the phone. Like, I was a demanding bitch, but I will tell you, like, you have to advocate for yourself. And like, my team was wonderful, but I also wanted to stay on this schedule. Like, I wanted to keep pushing. I wanted to be done with this. I wanted to just like, I couldn't really comprehend that I had just had really like a reaction that anaphylactic reactions, as everybody knows, like those are no joke, and that can be really dangerous, and people have died from that. I just couldn't focus on that. I was just like, let's get through this treatment. So they're like, we're going to run it low and slow, baby. So I'm like not kidding you. I think the normal treatment was like maybe 2 hour. I can't remember the details, but I was there till like 10 o'clock at night. Shout out to the infusion nurses and the team. They stayed, they worked with me. But yeah, like I was there for like 8 hours. So I'm thinking. So anyway, going back to like the beginning, the left breast, just to clarify, like ended up being negative. The spots that look concerning were just calcium deposits. There were some spots though that were kind of high risk. I went through genetic testing. I had the CHEK2 mutation, which is a lesser known mutation. It's not like BRCA, where like that like you have like a 50 to 60% chance. It puts you at like a 20 to 30% lifetime risk of getting breast cancer, and then also puts you at risk for some other ones as well. So I sort of knew going in. So I had my treatment locally. So I started with chemotherapy. I then had a double mastectomy. I probably could have done a lumpectomy. but I just also, like, once I had my genetic testing back, I was like, you know what? No, we're doing it. We're like just getting a double mastectomy. I decided to do implants, which, I'll get to where I am now with that. And so when you're going through radiation, they put tissue expanders in because they don't want to do the implant until after radiation. Um, and so anyway, I did that. That was brutal. Very tough surgery, very tough recovery. The radiation part wasn't terrible. I was very fortunate. My skin handled it well. Um, and I really had, like, because I had to have radiation to my chest wall. And so naturally some of that radiation like is going to affect you internally. So I do have a lot, like not a lot, but some scarring on my right lung. So that does make me kind of more susceptible to, colds and stuff like that. So I received my radiation and chemotherapy locally, and then I went to Boston, to Dana-Farber, which, a lot of people know. It's a nationally recognized cancer center. It's up there, like, there's Mayo Clinic, there's MD Anderson, Sloan Kettering. Those are the big ones. So Dana-Farber's in Boston. And I had a wonderful breast surgeon, wonderful plastic surgeon. And so now, like, people will say, like, you're on the other side of it. And, I think for me, like, that was the moment that sort of this Brightside Babe concept was born, because I think, like, going through the treatment, you're sort of in this bubble. Like, that's where I like felt sort of, I don't want to say the least anxiety, because I actually had a lot of anxiety, but like I knew it wasn't going to recur when I was like getting chemo. And I actually got a really good response to chemo, which again, with my type of cancer isn't always typical. So, I had clean margins. So in all sort of meanings of the word, I was in remission. Now I had to be on oral therapy. So Arimidex, which is a super common, oral therapy, and then Verzenio, which at that time was fairly new in kind of the recommendations, but brutal side effects. Like I had terrible diarrhea, nausea. I actually had to dose reduce pretty quickly because I was having really elevated liver enzymes. I was also experiencing some lung issues. Mind you, again, these like reactions are in the 1%. So I just want you guys to remember how special I am. I was in the 1%. So all the things. And so now, like where I'm at, people are like, you're on the other side of it. And like, please, like, just don't say that to survivors, because first of all, we're never on the other side of it. We're always in it. And it's learning how to live with it that is and continues to be honestly a struggle for me. Like facing a life or death situation, facing mortality at such a young age, like, having a young son, I feel very blessed, but I also like still get really angry. I still get mad. I'll be honest, like I'm in the thick of it of trying to manage my anxiety. Recently started working with a psychiatrist on kind of the medication management piece because, you can't be on benzos forever. You can't I need to break up with Ativan, which is ongoing. But I think like I personally feel like the journey through it, fucking brutal. But like survivorship does not get talked about enough, and how difficult it is to be on the other side and try to look at the bright side, right? Hence Brightside Babe. And I want to be clear, like the bright side isn't like fucking Pollyanna, like everything is great, like everything's going to be wonderful, life is beautiful, like smell the roses. Like bright side is just like finding it, even if you have to squint, like finding the sun, even if you have to squint at it without sunglasses on. That's kind of like where I'm at. Like I'm just squinting and trying to find any sign of brightness. And that is okay. And I just like want to say that because I think people feel guilty, like, because every cancer journey is different. Not everybody makes it. Like, and the reality is, like, my cancer has a really high recurrence rate. So that's always going to be there. But like, I also know I've got to find a way to live with this. And so that's kind of the point I'm at. And that's really why I wanted to start this podcast, because I think like we can do hard things. And it's after those hard things, those traumas, those major life events, surviving those. Like a lot of people say survivor's guilt. I do have that because sometimes I don't know what I should put out there because I don't want to sound ungrateful. And now I'm like, fuck it. Like I feel really scared. I feel like I'm always looking over my shoulder at kind of that invisible monster that they call chemo. Like I wish I could take a self-defense class against chemo, but or cancer, sorry. But they currently don't offer that. So that's what I'm hoping this podcast can be, is a survival story, but also about so many other things, because I don't want my life to be defined by cancer. Like I don't really want to talk about it all the time. It happened. And so I want to, as part of all of my segments, I want to have a bright side, dark side. So this will be kind of a part of every single segment, like I said. Because you know what? Like we all have a dark side. And the dark side can be kind of fun. So we got to lean into that too. We can't be all bright and sunny all the time. So I kind of do this like, you know, the pit and the peak. Like I like to do this with my family, like the pit and the peak of the trip. And, you know, which that always produces interesting discussion. It also depends on like how much everyone has had to drink, if, you know, people smoked pot that day. But anyway, so I guess I'm going to start with the dark side of where I'm at. Like today, August 17th. Is it 17th or the 18th? Anyway, the 18th at 10:11 a.m. I think the dark side for me is managing this beast called anxiety and sleep. I am not sleeping well. Some of that is like, you know, I have a little kid and it's funny. I was talking to somebody the other day and they're like, I thought they were going through a sleep regression, but I really think it's this. Like as parents, like we always try to like find any excuse so that we don't have to like acknowledge that it's a sleep regression, or just that like this is going to be our new normal because we're like so sleep deprived. We're like, it can't be, right? Like it's got to be something else. Well, anyway, so like my little guy is definitely going through that. I think it might be growing pains, but I've given up like trying to figure out reasons. Like he just likes getting up at 4 and coming in and like having full conversations. And so anyway, dealing with that, parenting will be another episode because that's a fucking hard thing. But I think my dark side right now, like I said, is figuring out like medication management, like figuring out how to cope like in healthy ways. We all know the unhealthy ways of coping. And again, like not letting my anxiety control or define me. Easier said than done. Oh, and getting off Ativan, which, you know, I'm working on it. And that's why I need professionals, because we have a very complicated relationship. So the bright side, and again, like, you know, bright side does not always have to be these like existential things. It can be really simple things. And I'm going to tell you my simple bright side today. My bright side is that my hair came back really curly. And the grass is always greener, people, I know. But for all my curly girls out there, I'm kind of digging it and finding new ways to wear my hair and experimenting with that. And that is like such a small thing. But, I could say my bright side is like, I'm alive, I'm here, like, I should feel grateful for every day. That can be really overwhelming. So, like, just pick something small. Like, it could be anything. Like, I, found a new chicken recipe that's really good. Great. That's your bright side. So, anyway, what you can expect here is some humor, some swearing. Sorry, I was like trying to moderate my use of the F word and I think I lost track. So, anyway, we're going to talk about the hard stuff. We're going to talk about survival. We're also going to talk about, parenting, relationships, body dysmorphia, menopause, perimenopause, grief, starting over, ridiculous shit people say. That needs to be like a whole episode because I literally could talk about that for hours. And all the ways life doesn't go according to plan, because I'm here to tell you that from one control freak to another, you can make a plan. Life's got its own fucking plan. So, like, I have major control issues. I will say that's another bright side of going through cancer is you've got to give up some control. And that's something like I'm working on every day is the control piece, because we set ourselves up for fucking disappointment, people. Like, we all want to have a plan and it would be great if we could, but maybe that's the beauty, right? Like, maybe instead of being afraid of what's around that corner, like, we got to be excited because, we can do it. Like, even when the plan is not what we want, even when the plan is something traumatic, like, you got to face it head on and you've got to deal with it. And that's kind of my thing in life now is like dealing with things head on, acknowledging it, talking about it. Like, I communicate about everything now to a nauseating point. But I think, the bottom line is this. If you join me on this journey, you're going to be along for a ride, and there's going to be a lot of surprises. And there's also going to be a lot of people that tell their story. And again, it's not going to be all cancer all the time, because I wouldn't want to listen to that. And it can't be, because my life is not going to be defined by that. And that's not going to be my life story. And that's not going to be my legacy. So we are going to fucking talk about other things, people. So I hope you'll join me as this journey continues. And if you're in the middle of like something right now that feels impossible, I really hope you'll stick around, because you might not be able to see that bright spot yet. And I just want to emphasize that's okay, because sometimes you just need someone to sit in the dark with you until you can see it. And so even though I am a Brightside Babe, I want you to know that I will sit in the dark with you. And I realize that sounds weird and creepy, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. So I am going to sign off, and I am so excited for this journey, and welcome to the bright side, babes. And until next time, babes, keep looking for the bright side, even if you have to squint.